Hello and welcome to What's on Your Shelf. And today I'm hosting a sucker for coffee. You know her. You've met her, you've seen her do dozens of reviews, to say but the least, on Instagram. And the lady I'm hosting today is an amazing book enthusiast. If you want to know what to read, check out her Instagram page. But ladies and gentlemen, that is none other than Faye.
Hello. No, I'm Faith Nzama. I go by the moniker Sucker for Coffee with one E at the end.
Okay.
See, if you have you read the book Anne of Green Gables?
No.
So there's a character called Anne Shirley, and she makes a point of telling people it's Anne with an E. So there's even a Netflix show about it. So mine is Sucker for Coffee with one E. There's a story behind that. What do? I capture it with, I read books and talk about them. Basically, that's it. But to say more on that is, I like sharing the books that I've read and loved. Some I read, didn't love, but I feel like you need to know my opinion. I'm also in the monitoring and evaluation space when I'm not reading.
How did Sucker for Coffee start? What was the idea behind Sucker for Coffee? And
The blog and the socials.
yes.
2015, I was on Insta and then I saw a picture of a book. And I remember her name, I think, was Alice in Wonderland or Bookland, something like that. The name doesn't exist. I tried looking. And she had long socks, very nice background, a nice flat lay, a coffee and books. And I was like, oh, this is nice. So I took a screenshot, sent it to a friend. I was like, I'd really like to take such a picture. And then in the hashtags, I saw Bookstagram, I saw Bookish, Sock Sunday or something like that. Like it was a lot. So I tapped Bookstagram and I saw so many pictures. Oh, wow, pictures. And they were so pretty. And I was impressed. I was like, I want something like this. Because at that time I was reading Campus, second year or third year. And back then, it's when I was coming into reading. Because the reading I was doing before then was dictated. But this is me trying to figure out what kind of books I like. And it bugged me. The whole of 2015, October, November, December, bugged me so much. And then my friend was like, why not create yours? And that's how it started. So January 8th, started the Instagram page. June, launched the blog. And that's how it started. Like, I wanted to take pictures like that, girls, and share and show people as well.
You've become such a name in books, this space where I don't even know how does it have a name?
Bookstagram. It's
Because yours goes beyond Instagram.
it's a, let's say, book community.
Yes.
Because I've dipped my foot into Twitter. We have Pinterest. Actually, people don't know, but Pinterest has brought, especially I have a huge readership on my blog from Pinterest. So it's how you play with the app. And then the blog itself. So like I said, when I started, oh, I didn't say this. I think it's when we were talking. When I started, it was a very white community, in that the only people I knew were in the UK, the US, and I started talking to them. Like, I had friends from those countries. But then I realized it informed my reading as well, because I wanted to read what they're reading. I wanted to have something to talk about with them. So whatever they were reading is what I was reading as well. So it took me a long time, I think a year or two, before I realized, this is not me, but I still maintained the friendship. So let's call it a book community because I've created friendship and relationship and engagement from people in different social media apps in different countries.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Which is really beautiful that books really allowed you to travel and meet people.
They do.
And when I looked at the reviews you've done, you've reviewed dozens of books. Did
Over
you ever
200.
know that you would get here? Did you ever know that one day you will be this person who people send books to review?
Yes and no. So the blog was birthed because I struggled with Instagram captions. So Saka for Coffee is fast for me. Before other people consume it, I consume it. And I don't like long captions. I'll pass through. So I realized even in my own Instagram post, I don't like long captions because I talk in circles, I go off tangent. So Instagram at that time also was very limiting. And I needed to tell you more about these books I'm reading. I love them. I want to tell you why. So that's how I birthed the blog, because I really wanted to tell you why I love this, what I didn't like about it, and why you should pick it up. And it grew because I realized you'd get such messages. I'll share what I'm reading, and someone will be like, "Oh, I really want to know what you think about it."
Yeah.
And you will not find that on Instagram. So I had to create a home for where my long form can stay, where I can give you much more information than this is good, go read it.
Yeah.
So when it started, I think the first person to ever send me their book was an author, an independent author. She was like, I like your page. Do you mind reading this book and sharing your honest opinion? And I was like, yeah, sure. But I made it clear that you will get an honest opinion. Like, you will get an honest opinion about what I think. And I think it grew from that when I realized you could actually ask. So this came in later. Now, when I found my reading voice, I discovered these publishers. Like, when you look, you see there's Masobe, there's Vintage. So I went Googling. So you're saying Vintage? Who's your publicist? Where, because they, and I think because the book industry in their abroad is very big, it's like they know people will come looking. So they're like, for book reviews, this is who you email. So I sat down and sent email. I'm like, hi, my name is da 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 from Kenya. I would like to read your book and all that. And attach because the advice you'd get is these people are busy. So attach your address because they don't have time to answer and be like, so what's your address? So I do that. I never got a response. I think in all the years I've been blogging, 2 or 3 people have responded, but the books will show up because they'll go on my post office and I'll find them. And sometimes they'd add another one. They're like, we think you might like this one as well. They'll do that as well. Or some will, so it's a mixture of both. There are some I'd ask, but some will reach out. They're like, there's this book coming out.
Yeah.
Are you interested? And when I send my emails, I usually add the part of, I would like to be in your mailing list for further books, if you have them. And again, they don't respond, but I find myself there. So you find, for example, recently a publishing house sent me a catalog. They're like, this is our January to June catalog of books that are coming out. And I was reading, I was like, oh, I'd like to read this one and this one. I was like, so hi, these are the books that I found that I like. And then they're like, yeah. So some are not yet in their physical form. They're like, but we'll send it when they're ready. I'm like, yeah, okay. That's
Awesome.
nice.
We'll get to the shelf.
Yeah.
But as I was going through your Instagram, because I noticed something. Women in translation. Tell me about women in translation.
I love women authors. Let's start from there. My shelf is 99% women authors. And this is something we'll come up with one of the books we'll talk about. But I love how women write tragedy. I love how they write trauma. Like, it's not in your face. It's that they're telling you about this important thing. And there's a way they write with care that I really love, as opposed to the other gender. So yes, so women in translation, I try to read as many translated books as possible when I can, or where I can, if I can find them available. And mostly I try to read them in physical copy as well, because for some reason, my translated books, I want them in physical copy. Because even if I listen to an audio, because mostly the other form I'll consume it is audiobook, I'll go in search. If I love it, I'll go in search of a physical book.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm just interested in how it's written, because I'm also aware some things are lost in translation. They're translating it into English, but when you read a story, you're like, there's like a disconnect here,
Yeah.
but you know clearly it's because it has been translated. And mostly you find that there are words that are not there in English. So to make sense of it, give translators their flowers. Those people do work. They do work. But yeah, it's something I just enjoy reading, and there's a dedicated month for it. I do not remember when. I don't know if it's August.
So what I wanted to understand is when you talk about women in translation, are they books that have been written by anyone, but it's translated by a woman, or they are books written by women that are now translated to English from other languages?
Books written by women that are translated. So the translator could be a man or woman. Like, there's an author I love, Mieko Kawakami, and all her books, or majority of her books, are translated by men. 2 men, actually, Sam Bett and David Boyd. But there are others who, it's women. Like, the translator's gender doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's the author of the
Okay.
book for me. So that's what counts as women in translation. Yeah.
So let me ask you the big question. So Faith, what's on your shelf?
This is a small part of my shelf. See, if you follow me, mostly you get glimpse of my shelf here and there.
Yeah.
But today, I struggled because I don't answer the question of what's your favorite book.
Yeah.
Because now I'll start asking you, this month, is it this year, or is it by author? Like, what do you want to know? It can't be a blanket question of what's your favorite. I do not have. Because some books come to you in different seasons, and that's why you love them. There are certain books I'd read and give them a low rating, and then in hindsight you realize it's where you are, your mood. Because I'm also a heavy mood reader. My mood, and a mood reader who now multi-reads. Because if I start picking one book and it's not hitting, I'll shelf it, pick another. Like, yeah. So for today, I wanted to spotlight authors that I love. And these are repeat authors for me, except for 2, 3. But these are authors I read. I will read anything they write, even their shopping list. Please, I will read. Yeah.
So what are you currently reading?
Oh, I'm reading these 2 books by men. See, we are trying. I am trying. Actually,
At night, all blood is black.
yeah, that's a translated book. So I think at the back you can see who's either at the back or somewhere.
Yeah.
We'll see who translated it. So I like being interactive once in a while on my IG. So there are 2 books that were high key on my TBR to be read shelf. This and another one, Same Earth by Kay Miller. So I let the people decide, what do you want me to read first? And this is what got the most votes. So it's a bit dark. It's a bit tragic. I have not started it. I think I've only read 2 pages because I picked it in the morning because the poll ended in the morning.
Okay.
So I cannot say much about it, but from what people have been saying, is it's a very dark book, and I am in for a ride. That's another thing. I realized I read a lot of dark books. I don't know why. For some reason, my shelf will show you that. Tragic. The other book I'm reading is this, Portland Noir. Have you heard about the Noir series?
I've heard about the Noah.
Yeah, so there's Nairobi, Accra,
Yes.
all that. And it's my dream to read all of them. But so far, this is what I've started with. And it's dark. Noah translates to darkness. So these books in this series, they talk about the city's decay, the murders, the crime, the corruption, all the bad things you can think about. That's what it's written about. So it's all that about Portland. Same case, when you read the Nairobi Noir, It's all the decay, the morally corrupt, the corruption, the crime in Nairobi. So that's part of the Noah series, and it gives you a different perspective about a city or a country, because now you've read, let's say, the Havoc of Choice. It shows you a different area, the high class part, or the normal kawaida person, who maybe the most that will happen is your phone will get stolen in a matatu.
Yeah.
But now the Noah series goes deep, 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 deep.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll follow to hear what you say once you're done.
I started it yesterday.
Yeah.
This is a habit I have. When I finish a book, I have to read one immediately, so that I don't give it space between me finishing a book and me picking. So even the next book, let me read even if it's 10 pages, so that when I come back, I know I'm coming back to a book, as opposed to now, where do I begin? Which book do I start with? It reduces that laggy period, which can also lead to a reading slump.
Yeah.
So I always do that. So, for example, when I finish this, like there's another book on my queue, knowing that when I finish, that's what I'm picking to read
Okay.
next. So I started this yesterday morning. I was only aiming to read one story. I ended up reading 3 because they are so addictive. They are so crazy. It's madness in a book.
Yeah.
Like, why? But again, give me more. So it's, yeah.
All right. So we start the journey. Now, and I want to start with a title you've mentioned,
Oof.
The Havoc of Choice.
The Havoc of Choice
Yeah.
by Wanjiru Koinange.
Yeah. Tell us about The Havoc of Choice.
It's a bookmark as well. This book, it's one of the best Kenyan books I've read. Saying that as someone who's read quite a lot of Kenyan books.
Yeah.
And the same way I will read a Chimamanda and review it is the same way I will read a Kenyan book and review it. No one gets special treatment. And this book blew me off. And the reason is, I think my loving of this book is I went through the POV violence, the 2007-2008.
Yeah.
I was living in Kisumu at the time. And I'd read certain parts in the book and I'm like, this happened.
Yeah.
Granted, it's told in a perspective of this rich man who's living a privileged life and all that. But there were certain aspects in the book that I knew it was a 5-star read by the time I was getting halfway through the book. There's a certain scene that sticks out a lot. Years later, since having read it, it was a supermarket scene where you're going to buy things because you don't know how long this thing will last, and you're scared because I think we had stayed for a week or 2 without having gone out. So now this one day that you have to go out, you go and overbuy everything. And it stuck, and I remember I cried. And I don't cry with my books. I have read the most horrific and harrowing of books. But for some reason that hit a mark, and I was like, okay.
So you're in Kisumu.
I was in Kisumu.
And then all of a sudden,
They
the
said,
country is shut.
yes.
And your shags is somewhere the other side of the country. What were you going through? Were you with people? What was that season like for you, right in the middle of?
I was young.
Yeah.
I think I was 9 or 8. It was around Christmas time.
Yes.
So we had family over. Remember, I had 2 of my aunts. One of my aunt came with the kids. And then it happened. And see, I don't know if my memory blocks. I don't know when the first aunt with the kids left. Because they left. And then we were 3 now. My mom. No, we're 4. My mom, myself, my auntie. So 3. We're 3. So the 3 of us are navigating through that time. So it's black spots at some points. I just know that's also the first time I got on an airplane because my mom's job evacuated us. And yeah, so I didn't even get to enjoy, like, this is an airplane. It's the first time I'm seeing one. It's the first time I'm getting into one. because you don't even have the luxury of being scared that it's a teen, entering a teen to go up there. You have to get in. So yeah, it's. I've tried to forget a huge chunk of that period. So honestly, I don't remember. And I'm very good at that. Forgetting.
For me, I was mature. In fact, that was the first election I voted, and the anxiety that came with the elections and the hope. Now I was in Nairobi then, and personally, I would say I didn't see the violence. I experienced the violence because I was living in Huruma, in Nairobi, and Huruma is very
volatile.
Yes, and cosmopolitan, and then most of the people had lived together for a very long time. So if it was a tribal affair, that house has this tribe and this house.
Yeah.
And it was a mess. But now, when you think about the effect of it today, and I'd really want to hear from you, who by that time, perhaps a 9-year-old, how has it informed your perspectives of looking at elections today that you've come of a voting age?
Oh, I voted. We voted last year, right?
Yeah,
I voted. My first election, actually. Because I think that after last year was 2022. What was the one before that?
2017.
No, I didn't vote in that one.
Yeah.
It took a while for me to come into terms with, now you have a voice. Your vote is your voice. I avoided that whole election time period. I remember panicked because the one before that we were in high school, and when it happened I was in a boarding school, so I wasn't home. But I remember the 2017 one, I think I was in campus. I went home, like now to my mother's land.
Yeah.
Because you want to be with your people.
Yeah.
You dance. So I had a lot of anger towards it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we sorted through that.
Very many people who today voted in this 2022 election for the very first time, a majority were 10 or less when the post-election violence happened. A majority saw it.
Yeah.
And I read a report somewhere that said this past election had the lowest new voter registration. And when I look at it today, I don't want to say that there is any scientific thought process that have gone into it. But now listening just to you, a majority of young people who witnessed, though did not have a voice, though did not have the ability to vote, though did not understand what was going on, experienced the violence. And it influenced their perception of what an election is.
And for me, I saw it as loss. We were affected, but not to the extent other people were affected.
Yeah.
But my loss came with, I lost your home, I lost my friends, because that year is the year my family, we moved to Kisumu that year. So it was a new playing field for me.
Yeah.
Made new friends, was in a new school. It was, and I was having a time of my life in school. So the whole period we had to live without me saying bye.
Yeah.
I didn't have a phone, so I didn't have anyone's number. Funny thing, this year and last year, I've connected with 2 people through this Instagram thing. And they're like, hi, are you Faye? Were you the one in Kisumu? And they give you details. They're like, yeah, it's me. Because I left, and for a long period of time, people thought I died. Because how are they going to reach me?
Exactly.
So it was a period of loss for me. So I view elections as a time of loss.
Yeah.
Because now you come back to Nairobi, you're starting from scratch. And then so that my mom can rebuild, she can't do it with me being there. And that's when I was taken to a boarding school for the first time. And I was like, I want to be with my mom. But that's not an option.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a question of, do you want to go to boarding? No. You have to go. Because I can't do this. I needed that stability.
Yeah.
So boarding school was the only option. So yeah, it
But
was
when you
nice.
look at it, do you think, when you look at this past election, when you look at that election cycle and how we behave as a people, do you think there are any lessons as a people we learned from the 2007 and 8?
So what happened? Have people learned? That's all I can say. Have people learned? Yeah, we can leave it at that. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
All
we can
right.
move on.
I have quite a bit, but I want to move on to the next one that struck me the first time I looked at your books. Get a Life.
Oh, that's a nice book. That's a nice fluffy book. Yay! No more reflections. So where I was looking at the books I'll carry is I wanted books that will represent all the genres I read and enjoy. And I do love myself a good romance book. That's Get a Life by Get a Life Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert.
Yeah.
It's the Brown sister trilogy. So she's the first sister. And I really love it because this is a lady who has a chronic illness. She has chronic pain. She's OCD'd, and then she meets this ball of sunshine who is the opposite of her. Very spontaneous, very abrupt, like the fun guy, you get? And Chloe has a list of the things she wants to do because people are telling her she's been limiting herself. You don't go out, you don't do. So she has a list, and now they're going through that list with this man. And it's a really nice book. It has lessons. It does explore mental health very beautifully, which I love. The chronic pain, it gives perspective on that. Trying to see if this is something people should say on our podcast. I have chronic illness, which we'll not talk about.
Yeah.
So seeing that representation in the book was really nice. And I remember I read it on audio first. And I chanced on this book. I needed something light because I read heavy books. So in between I need something light. And I read it on audio and the narrator was really good. So when the books came to the Kenyan market, I was like, I want. And then got it and had to read it again. I was like, this was a well done book. So yes, it's a good book.
I'll come to the lessons. I would want to, but now this is love wasn't on her to-do list.
It was not.
It was not among the... What were the things that she wanted that love was not? Because...
Men are stressful. She didn't want to be stressed. Let's
Are
say.
they?
Let's say. Yeah, but I think that her list was things she deemed as fun, because she's been told she's very rigid. So a relationship is not, in her mind, a relationship wasn't fun. So it chanced on her. Yeah. And
Yeah. You've spoken about some lessons.
Have I?
Yes, you've said that there are things to learn.
No, what I'm saying is how the topics in the book, yes, it's a romance book, they are well explored.
Yeah.
So if you're a person who's not gone through that, you get to learn. But if you're a person who has, it's like, oh, this is me, so I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Kind of mentality.
Yeah.
But lessons, I think, ni mtu kujitakia. Whatever you read, whatever you learn, whatever you get, that's up to you.
Most of the time, because of such situations, people tend to ask, what is wrong with you? Like people would have asked Chloe, what is wrong with you? You don't do this. You don't do that. You don't act like this. Because that is what has been categorized as normal, But now they go deeper to say that the things you do today might not be why you're like that. But there are things that happened to you or you experienced at an earlier age that shaped how you behave today. That maybe you don't even have control over how to handle them. Or you don't have control over you see that outside perspective that somebody would watch and say,
Yeah.
Faith, what's wrong with you? Unakuwaga aje? Maybe you don't even know unakuwaga hivyo the way
Yeah.
that person is saying. You know.
Yeah.
But now I want to tie that in with something you said before we started recording when we were talking about early childhood. And it's something I realized that recently. And you are somebody who is in that space. It says that this period, the first 1,000 days of a child, are the most important days in a child's life. I don't know what your thoughts and sentiments would be regarding that.
It is. They are important. That's the foundation. Whatever you do in that period will inform how this child will grow. So it's up to us, parents, guardians, people in the society with kids,
Yeah.
to mold them by making sure that we are not hurting them in the process.
Yeah.
So yeah. So the good things you think are good reading culture, introduce books to them. Playing, what kind of games can they play that will help them develop? Basically how we handle them
Yeah.
at that age is very critical. So the kind of person you want the child to grow up to be, at the end of the day, depends on you.
Yeah. You see, the thing is, when you think about 1,000 days, that is basically a 2 point something or 3 year
3
old.
years.
Most of the time, this child has not reached school going age. So very many people pay very little attention to this child during that period, assuming that when they now reach school going age, now we can start properly taking care of it. And I found that very insightful, and that is the reason why I was pushing that question to you, because maybe there is somebody who's listening to us today who this might be their opportunity to understand something about this 1 year or 7-month-old child. What are they learning from you who is near them?
If, yes, they're not over school going age, but they still can learn. So if you have a daycare around you, which you have to go up here, Wangalia, it's a good daycare, it's a daycare that they can learn from. They have the charts, they have the games, they have the toys and all that. They have a trained caregiver. So daycares are actually important to help you in that. If you don't have, because most people don't have the time, if you're being honest, they don't have the time to be around the children, they have to go look for work. So if you're not able to, you find someone who can, and someone who's more or less trained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Faith, to that parent who is listening to you, who is a parent to this 3-year-old, what is that one thing you tell them that they need to know or they need to pay attention to?
Their developmental milestones. There are children who are slow, which you don't rush them, but you can monitor. Is your child what can we say? The things around them are in the environment is what determines how they'll grow, right? So are they eating well? Make sure your child is eating well. Are they being stimulated? Are they being engaged? Do they have those toys, the manipulative toys? Can they throw a ball? Can they write or scribble? What else can you say? The environment they are in, it can't be dull. It needs to be bright. You need to have those fun things, whether it's a chart, whether it's a drawing, like you can see. So, yeah, make sure the environment is just safe and stimulating.
Yeah.
Make sure they have those learning materials that they can use. Ensure they eat well. They have a good, decent meal.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know perhaps you're wondering why am I talking about childcare? She's passionate about children and she knows a thing or two about it. That one we'll talk about one day when we host her.
Yeah.
Better. So allow me to move to the next one. The first woman.
Oof. Someone said I'm a chirabo. Chirabo is the is the main character in the book. We were at 2 years back. We had a Christmas thing with a couple of friends, and one of the games we were playing is describe this person as a character of a book. And Chirabo came a lot. Chirabo is very hyper. She's high energy. I am high energy.
You are high energy.
Oh my.
Okay.
I think because you're high energy as well, you're not seeing it. I am. But if you've read the first book by Jennifer Kumbi, it's called Chintu. And Chintu is started to be a book about the first man. And now it's female centered. There's a grandmother there who likes telling stories, and I love reading stories. She's very comical in her way of telling the story. She's those rude grandmothers who they can banter you proper. And her story is really interesting to read, and it's fascinating to watch Chirabo. Chirabo is young. Her coming of age, her growing into the woman that she thinks she needs to be, and how it's being informed by the people around her. So it's a really good book. And I cannot say more beyond that. It's a good book, because me saying more means me spoiling the book.
What stood out for you? What
The
stood
grandmother
out?
with the stories. See, how I consume books. When I read a book, I don't consider a book for me, because then that would be a bad way of reading. Because now, if it's not for me, if I read and it does not talk or inspire my life, then now I'm miserable. I'm like, that's a bad book. So, for example, and most of the books, I'll mention that is, I am a spectator in this story. It is not my story. I am a spectator. So I can enjoy the book. I can see some learnings which you're going to ask me about, but I don't have because I am reading for fun. Let's start there. I am reading for fun. I have read for work. I have read for school. I am reading for fun, because for me, reading is a hobby. So when I go into a book, first I'll judge with the cover.
Yeah.
And then the story. I hardly read synopses. I don't mind reading them, but I hardly do, because most of my reading comes either from a reading list, maybe this book prizes, or a friend would be like, Faith, read this book. And there are certain people who, when they say read, I don't ask questions. I'll go read the book. So it's not, I don't go there looking for lessons. I'm there for fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that that sometimes doesn't allow you maybe to probe, or because
Probe what?
because
Probe what?
because I feel like whether it's a fiction or non-fiction, most of the time, in one way or the other, you tend to relate with something in the book, or perspective
Yeah.
shifted based on certain things, that as much as you're a spectator, there are certain variables in the story that either relate to you or inspire something in you, or remind you of something that you ought to do that you've not done. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say that. But then, for example, let's take the first woman.
Yeah.
I'm learning about the Baganda. Other than Chirabo, me and her having some similar character traits, I can't say it's a book I relate to, because I'm not there inside. When Jennifer wrote this book, it's for the Baganda people. The book is written for us. We are just reading. Again, we are the second group. The first group for this book is the Baganda, because even how she writes, how she puts some words in, it's either for you to get it or go learn more about it, but it's not for you. So I can't read this book and say, I'm looking for relatability. It's not possible. There are books that I'll read, they have book of choice, and I find that I'm relating to it. More or less, I'm not there. Like, something will spark a conversation with a friend. That's how you start talking about books. I'll read and say how beautiful the writing was, or I love how they write women, or I love the sense of place in this book. But it's not really relating to my life.
Yeah.
I'm learning more about another culture, about another country, but that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've reviewed a lot of books.
I have.
What are you looking at communicating whenever you hold a book in your hands like this?
Oh, the cover. See, my review of a book starts from a cover. I waited 2 years to read Transcendent Kingdom because I hated the cover we had. And a cover can break or make a book for me. But what I want to tell you about the writing. How's the language? How's the author's writing? Because sometimes you find that's the first interaction you have with an author, how they write. There's a book I finished reading, the one I finished yesterday. I struggled with the writing because the tone was just sleepy. So I want to tell you about the writing. Is it lyrical? I tend to use the word brilliant a lot because sometimes an author writes and you're wowed. Is it easy? Easy does not mean it's bad. There's a book you'll read and you engage from the first page, and you find yourself leaping through. I like talking about the plot or the storyline of the book, the characters, because you find there are those with distinct personalities, but then there are those who are not memorable. There's a secondary character who's better than the main character. So whatever happens in the book, I like telling about that. And the other thing is, if it comes up, that's it. Like, for example, Pleasant View, you find the place. There's a strong sense of place. And where it's set up, it's a character in itself. So if something like that happens, I talk about it. Mostly that. And then I share what I think. So when I write, it's not formal. It's very, hey, let me tell you, I have read.
Yeah.
This is what I have seen.
Yeah.
It's you can't go there looking for a formal review because it's actually not even long. Because also I'm trying to write in a way that I'm not spoiling it for you. So if it's spoilery, I will tell you. You find there are certain, if you're keen on my page, the blog that is,
Yeah.
there are certain books I can't review. I don't have the words for them. So I will tell you. One is The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. That's a non-fiction. That's a very not faith book. I remember saying it's one of my favorite a while back, and people were shocked. Because it's a non-fiction. I don't read non-fiction other than memoirs. I avoid them. Or when I read, what's other book? When I read A Little Life, on that book I was ranting because people lied. So I wanted to show you where your lies are.
Yeah.
So you find that I can't review. Like I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, this is what's in my head. I'm dumping it on you.
Yeah.
So try and figure it out.
But I'm a bit curious because you made it very clear, I think, from the get-go that you don't really like nonfiction.
I do not.
And now hearing The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari being a favorite, what is it that was different about The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari?
The way it was told, how Robin Sharma told that story, because more or less we are reading a story within a story. Have you read it?
Yes.
So Julian, I think that's the name. It's like he's shocked about these lessons that he's learning, and I found them quite practical. Because which is this book I've read recently? They are Muslim and it's a fiction.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It's about the judge.
Because I think the essence of The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari was supposed to light that bulb for you who is in business and marketing, and you want to understand how to maybe capture the market.
I did not. You see, no one book is read the same, because I read that when I was in first year. Was it first year? I think immediately after high school.
Yeah.
And it was a neighbor's copy, which I loved, that I ended up buying my own copy. And what I read was like how Julian saw life. you know?
Yeah.
See, I'm just, what? I was 17.
Yeah.
Nimeanza shule. What am I doing? Eh? I didn't see it as self-help, but I was
Yeah.
like, I want to see someone else struggling. You see if we are struggling the same, you
Yeah.
know? So his struggle was he's a big lawyer with many money. And, where people have problems that are
Yeah.
no problems. And you're there, you're looking for, you're going to campus, you're going to uni. So how I saw it was more of, how can I navigate life?
Yeah.
Me as Faith. How can I do it? So that's how I saw it. I didn't, the business that it is, I have not read that book since 2017, I think, or 16.
Yeah.
Again, maybe I might read it and hate it, but we've 2 times is enough.
Has something like that ever happened? Because I've had a lot of people talk about, I didn't like this book the first time I read it, now I read it and I like it. Is there a circumstance where you've read a book and you've loved it, and then the second time you're reading it?
A recent example, we read The Color Purple. I read that book the first time and I loved it. I was wowed. It was so good. The writing, the characters, the character I even thought I loved. I come back 2023, I'm reading the book, I'm annoyed. Because I'm like, did I overlook these things on purpose? Because how? There are parts I'd read and I was bored. I'm like, but I wasn't bored the first time. And it's because now I'm realizing, okay, well, here you're dragging, you're telling unnecessary information. Here, you're telling more than you're showing. Why? So I think I grew as a reader, and I have a feeling there are books that if I read now, those ratings will change. The star ratings I give will change. So yeah, The Color Purple was an instance. But the opposite, I read Butter Honey Pig Bread the first time. I didn't like it. I actually thought people were lying. I think you'll notice by now I get upset when people say a book is good and then I find it's not.
Yeah.
Especially when you have those catnip words, twins, tragedy, someone was. You see those 2 words?
Yes.
So I'm there. So Butter Honey, I read it the first time and I was like, people are lying. But when I got a physical copy and read it, I loved it. They were not lying. I was the problem. They were not the problem.
What do you think? What do you think changes in between? What
You grow
from
as a
your personal
reader.
experience?
You grow as a reader. But sometimes for me, it's also the format. There are times where I'm listening to an audiobook and I stop because I'm realizing I won't enjoy this book as an audio. I need print copy. So for me, mostly it's 2 things. Growth as a reader, especially if it's a book I read when I was young. Because again, I've been reading for a long time. And the format, because I consume a lot of audiobooks as well. I have quite a huge commute, so I need to fill my time.
Yeah.
And I fill it with an audiobook.
It is interesting because now I'm curious to ask you from your perspective, because now when I look at that, there is growth that you can see
Yeah.
from your own, from the things that interest you in a book. But now I'm thinking in the perspective of a new reader, somebody who's just beginning. People tell people, start reading, just pick a book and read. How would you help this person who wants to know where to start? Because you might start with this book that is too mature, then you're discouraged again.
Recommending a book is an art that I thrive in.
Yes.
One,
Show us your ways,
I do
master.
not tell people to. I tell people to read.
Yeah.
Read whatever you have. But I won't tell you to just pick any book. There are 2 books that I like going to a lot. One, The Secret Lives of Baba Segi, because I feel like everyone, even if you've never touched a book in your life, this is a book you'd get into.
It's called The Secret?
The Secret Lives of Baba Segi Wives. It's a very cinematic book.
Sorry.
It's a cinematic book. It's drama on the page. And the other book is called And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I don't have my copy. Lent it to someone. Those 2 books, if you cannot enjoy them, if you read them and unaona roho imekata, reading then is not for you. And I know that's a bad thing to say,
Yeah.
because you can never go wrong with those 2 books. And Then There Were None is it's a thriller. drama and mystery. And then there's this, which it's comical in parts, it's mysterious in others, it's dramatic in full effect, and it's cinema on a page. You can never go wrong with that book. And I envy the people who saw the play. There's a play based on this book. So good, from what I hear and from the small clips I saw.
Yeah.
So yeah, those 2 books. If you've never read a book in your life, even you now who reads those non-fictions, pick those 2.
The Secret Lives of
Baba
Baba
Segi's
Segi's Wives.
Yes.
4 women, 1 husband, and
Yes.
a devastating secret.
So I won't tell you the secret. That's where the mystery is.
Tell us the secret.
Because I'll spoil the book. I will spoil the book. So it's really good. Those 2 books.
What is it about them that makes you feel like even this person who is just starting would
Those
be a
things I've
go-to?
mentioned. It's dramatic. They're fast paced. Let's start from there. So you're not struggling to read. It's very fast paced. You just want to know more. The storyline will capture your attention from the first page. You want to know more. And that's actually what you want in a reader. A reader who you've captured their attention and you're not letting go until the last page. Those 2 books will give you that. The other books, same case, but maybe katikati at some point you're like, it has dipped, but then it picks up. But these 2 don't let up from the first page to the last.
Yeah.
So I find that they're very easy, even to the most. The person, even I recommend it to people who don't read, and also people who are in a slump. You've been reading, and then all of a sudden, books have refused. Pick those 2. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Secret Lives of Baba Segi's Wives.
Yes.
4 women, 1 husband,
One husband.
and a top secret. So, how would you describe your reading habits? How do you read?
How do I read?
Yeah, you read a lot of books.
I do.
Faith.
I do. But funny thing, you see it as I read a lot of books. There are people who will see it the same way. But then there's someone I'm looking at and they're like, hey, you're reading a lot. So it's depending on the people you're following and the people you're seeing, because I don't think I read a lot. Because there are people who read more than I do. I'm on book 91. There's someone who's on book 150 something.
Book 91 of 20.
Over my target this year was 100. So I'm on book 91. So 92 and 93 are there.
So 92 and 93. So you only have 7 books and your year is done.
Well, it won't be done. That was the target. Okay, I have stories and stories. So there's a challenge I'm doing.
Yes.
When the 52 challenge happened, that was hard for me. One, I was in campus. Where's money? I don't have money. So I saw the other way I could save and get more money for books is for every book I read, I put 100 bob aside. And I've been doing that since 2017. And people have adapted it, which is nice to see, because there's someone who's doing 200. There's someone who's doing page for every page. And I'm like, okay, that's
Every page you read.
oh, that's nice.
Okay, when I grow up.
So for me, I do that.
Yeah.
So for this year, it was 100. So 10K by the end of the year. I want a new bookshelf. Well, I did get the new bookshelf from that money, because you find it's a little bit extra. When you say 100, it's not that much. It's much, but it's not that much.
Yeah.
So you can put it aside. So yeah, I do that. So yeah, for this year was 10K. So that's 100 books. We did well. Done well.
You've done great.
Yeah.
You've done great.
So my reading habits. I break my book spines. I want to do it now so I can stress people. People don't like that.
Okay.
When you do this, when you break the book spine like this,
Yes.
people will fight you. They're like, no. But for me, I'm not going to struggle reading a book like this because I want it to be new.
Yeah.
So if you notice my books here, see the first one,
Yeah.
they're broken on the spine because I will not struggle.
Yeah.
Another book habit, I will not read a book that I deem has an ugly cover. I refuse. Not at all. I am a multi-reader. I read multiple books at the same time. Started reading these two. But in the evening, if I want to listen to an audiobook, I'll just pick it up because I have some in my queue. Or if I just see another, I'll go stand on my shelf and then see a book. I'm like, oh, this is nice. And then start reading it. I have book 3. I read in all formats: ebook, audiobook, physical book.
Do you have any preferred?
I like physical books, and audiobooks come second. Ebooks I've actually stopped because my eyes, but I enjoy a good audiobook. Love it. My books are my books. I will write in them. I annotate. If let me show you something. This is a book I'm reading. I have a sticky note here. Sometimes I'll see something, I'll write in. I don't think this has written anything so far, or maybe one of the many read books. So when I write, I read with a pencil. But if it's not there and there's a pen, I'll use a pen to write in my books. I annotate. I comment in books. It's like we are talking, me and the book. I'm laughing, ha ha ha. Did a crazy thing. Are you mad? And write there with many question marks. So I write in my books. And the other thing is, I do not give out my books. Do not borrow my book. I don't borrow books.
Yeah.
Because the way I handle books, I wouldn't want to do that on someone else's because they have their own preference. And I don't want to be limited. So that's another reason why I don't read from libraries. Because then I'll ruin a book. What they consider ruining. For me, it's not ruining.
Yeah.
On the same breath, I don't lend out books. Don't borrow my books, please. Yes. I think those are the habits I can think. Well, I eat as I read. I have no preference. I will read. I will cook with a book there.
Are you addicted to coffee?
I am. Is it an addiction? Oh, I did suffer the 1 month I was told to stay off coffee because I was drinking it a lot. And then I figured out, I was told, for every 1 cup of coffee I drink, I need to take 2 glasses of water.
Yeah.
So I managed that. But yeah, I drink way too much coffee.
Why was that? What was the
I love the taste.
the 1 and 2 glasses
Or
of water?
because coffee dehydrates you. So the way I was drinking coffee, and I'm not drinking as much water, yeah, bad combination. Health-wise, it's not recommended.
Okay.
Yeah, it was bad.
You've learned a thing. Me, I'm not a coffee person. Yeah, I'm a chai person.
Well, I've started drinking tea now because apparently there's a time I was not allowed coffee. I didn't know what to take. Drinking chocolate is sweet. Anything that is sweet is too sweet. So tea, I fell into tea. Now I drink tea as well. So to pretend that I'm very healthy, I'll drink my many cups of coffee and then switch to tea, and you're like, oh, we're very healthy.
Yeah, me, I take a lot of tea. In fact, I love it Kenyan. Ketepa. Yeah. But
Nice.
when you look at it, the journey, where did you start reading? How did you start?
Remember that story I told you when we moved to Kisumu? Hey, I went to a serious school. These people read. I was not reading. There was no books. You read the progressive English, the comprehension story, you're done. So we had this teacher who wanted to encourage us to read, and you'd get a gold star. One thing about me, very competitive. Please, you want me on your team? We will win. We will win. So yeah, I really wanted the gold star, and I remember the first book I ever read, first novel, was Hekaya za Bunwasi. Struggled my way through it, but I read it. And then I didn't have time in that school because I was only there for a term to cultivate that reading habit. And then I was taken to a boarding school. We had a library, and then people came with their books. So I read a lot of borrowed books. And now that I'm thinking about it, maybe that's why I don't lend out books. Because people are mean. It's like you're begging. Can I just read? And then they're like, read it by break time. I want my book back. But you're in class. When am I going to read it? So I feel like people are very mean with their books. Yeah. Therapy. Anyway. So I read a lot of Mary Kate and Ashley, I read the Secret Seven books, the Famous Five.
How old are you this time?
9, 10.
9, 10-ish?
Wait,
Okay.
I finished class 8 while I was 10, I think. 10 or 11. The years escaped
Yeah.
me. But they were never my books. So I realized I enjoyed reading, but I didn't have books. So whatever is available in the library, that's what I'll read. Whatever people smuggle in school, that's what I'll read. And then we go to high school. Those two romance novels, they hit. But I didn't have my own. I was still borrowing books. And borrowed my way through Form 1 till Form 4. And also books were illegal to carry in school. Yes. They want you to read what's in the library, which is very limited. So people would smuggle books. And then now when you're reading, you have the book, you cover it with a paper. Sionekane nina soma, or you put it inside a textbook. So I think, again, my reading is being dictated.
Yeah.
And then I'd go home, I'd read my mom's books. So the John Grisham, the Robert Ludlum, the Sidney Sheldon, which I should not be reading at that age. But they were there. And that's what I think I started myself off with. And then after high school, finished high school, got my first proper phone. And I discovered the world of Wattpad. Now I'm reading fan fiction. So I was still struggling with the kind of books I'm reading. And then I go to campus and I now have free time. I have some pocket money. So now I go to Nakumatt and I buy my first book at 200 shillings. Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. And I think that's where my love for classics started. Because that's the first, this is me. I've gone to the shop and bought a book for the first time ever. 200 shillings. Read Sense and Sensibility in 3 days. Now I needed more. Now money is not enough. Pocket money was good. But sasa I'm reading faster than my money could handle. And Nakumatt shielded me a lot because I bought a lot of my books from Nakumatt.
Yeah.
Some I don't
Nakumatt's
have.
Lifestyle?
No. The one at Thika Road. And we also had a Nakumatt in Kahawa as well.
I think why it struck me because there used to be a restaurant. The first time it was called Books First, and now they were trying to this culture of.
It's still there.
It's still there.
Go to any supermarket, the books you'll find there, they're from Book First. So Nakumatt contributed a lot to my books. And if you're brave enough to scroll my page till the first mini, you'll see I'd Rather Kill You or something. It was a nice young adult book. But again, now I'm reading books I can afford. And the money is not that long. So it's not to my taste. But at least I'm buying my own books.
Yeah.
And then I joined Bookstagram from this white lady's photo. Now I'm reading what she's reading. Again, not my taste. So for a year plus, I was just floating again. Until I realized I don't enjoy that. Now I started reading my kind of books. I was introduced to the world of Nzama bookshop. Do you know what that is? You go to the street and you bend.
Right.
And not the pirated books, the ones that, no. They are proper second-hand books. This is a second-hand book.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any other here. But they're the rejects from their broads and they're brought and you take time to find them. And they were only 100 shillings. And that's when I realized I love historical fiction a lot. I love literary fiction. I love crime. So what are these other books I was reading? And then the idea of unholding came to mind. I saw people do it and never thought I could be one to give out. Well, not give out, sell. There's some I'd give out, but mostly sell. Like, I don't want this anymore. So the books that you will see on my page, 2016, 2017, I don't even have them anymore. Most, I don't. I still have my copy of Sense and Sensibility, very much tabbed. And one of my all-time favorite classics. But now I'm buying books that I like. Recommendations I'm taking to particular people who are reading more or less like me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can afford books now. Oh, look at that. From rags to riches.
Yes.
So yes, I
Yeah.
buy books. We buy books because we do not steal from authors. We enjoy. So that's how, yeah, see, my little collection.
What are your thoughts on? I've spoken to a couple of people and previously, and they've spoken about piracy. But every day I realize how we underestimated book piracy. You know, most of the time when we spoke about piracy in the art space, as somebody who has a music and performance background, we mainly thought about piracy in terms of music and movies and things like that. But I've realized that it's such a serious thing, especially in Kenya today.
It is. The short answer people tell you is books are expensive, of which I acknowledge books are expensive. But what you do, you save up for it. You don't have to buy every single book. The book is 1,000, save your 1,000. You can limit yourself here and there to get that one book.
Yeah.
There are other platforms. There's Everand, formerly known as Script. It's a subscription service. Monthly, you get access to ebooks and audiobooks. There's Kindle, which books are cheaper. Sometimes some are more expensive. The most popular books, even more expensive than the hardbacks, but they are cheaper books. So it's a conscious decision. There are those people who are not aware they're reading pirated books, especially when they buy it from the shop. But then there are those who actively search out for PDFs. I read PDFs after high school until someone talked to me. It was like, do you know you're stealing? And I was like, tell me more. And after our conversation, I was like, yeah, we're done with PDFs. So I wouldn't judge them harshly. But if you're told that this is bad, don't do it, and you're still doing it now, I'm judging you. But if you know it's bad and now you stop, you start doing better, then you're good.
There's something I noted, and I wanted to ask you about it. You tell us about books and banter.
Oh, wow. I need to get back to that. I give people work. So, I get a lot of recommendations. And unfortunately, I don't get to read all of them. So, Books and Banter was a way of me picking, deciding. Don't tell me read this one book. Let me choose for myself. So, I reached out to people. I actually have a whole I love notebooks a lot. So I have a notebook for everything. So my Books and Banter notebook has a list. So I reached out to people. I was like, give me 5 books that you love. And then I'll read one of them and give my reaction to it. It was simple as that. So they'd give me the list. I'd choose one book and then read it. And then come on IG and tell you that, hey, I read this book. These are my thoughts. So it was a dumbed down version of, not dumbed down. It goes hand in hand with my blog. But you see, how I speak and how I write are 2 different ways. They are similar in some aspect, but
Yeah.
they're also different. And also, speaking allows you to be informal
Yeah.
as well. So it was a different way of reviewing a book. Yeah.
Publishers, authors send you books to review. Do
Some.
you always go through everything that has been sent to you, and what influence? Now, let me say you've read it and you've reviewed it and you've given your feedback. How much influence do you think it has when it goes back to when you return it to the sender?
I don't return it to the sender. I do not.
When you give the feedback?
I do not.
You don't give feedback to...
The feedback is, the minute that book is in my hands,
Yes.
the review is not for you. It's for the reader.
Okay.
And I go with that mentality with all the books I read and review. It's not for the author. I do not even tag the author. So if you stumble and find my review, that's fine. But it's not for you.
Yeah.
It's for the reader. I am aware when books are coming my way. So either I have requested, so I'm the one who wants to read them, or they've reached out and they're like, can you read 1, 2, 3? So some I say no, especially if it's a book I know I won't, because now we've already had the story of now I know what I like. So if I already know I won't like it, I'd rather not take the book and say, and struggle through it. But some I take, if I read a book and it's bad according to me, let's say less than 3 stars, I will DM you and tell you, this is the rating, this is what I thought about the book, and it's up to you in that capacity. Do you want me to publish it publicly, or this is fine? But if it's a 3 and above, you will see it on the blog or on the Instagram page. I don't need to come back to you. And that, the 2-star, is if it's an author directly. If it's from a publisher, no, the 2-star, you will see it on the page.
Okay.
Because I can't go to the publisher and be so, this book is bad for 1, 2, 3. There's nothing they can do. Because when the author is coming to you directly, this is more majority and independent. She's doing it alone. She does not have the backing of a publishing house. So I have to be careful with that kidogo, because you also don't want to break them
Yeah.
and their spirit.
There are books that only exist in the digital platform.
There.
That they've not produced the hard copies. But I've also seen that you don't review ebooks and audiobooks.
Struggled.
Why so?
Because I can't take nice pictures. That's the simplest answer. And I get tired. I used to have a tablet. And if you scroll a few years back, you will see how those pictures look bad. Because now, the light, when you focus your camera and everything, it just looks ugly. We don't want ugly on the page, Mike. No. So it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
I will tell you, Faith, you've read The Purple Skirt. How did you like it? This is what and tell you. But you will not see it on unless I get a physical copy.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why there's a few people really, maybe I mean about 4 people, want me to write for this book called Yellow Face. I read it on audio, but I don't have a physical copy. I have thoughts, but I don't have a physical copy. I did manage to get a picture of a physical copy though, so that can be shared. But if there's no physical copy, well, there's no review.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. The stars will work. The rating.
So you told me you have a tracker. You track your reading, and you have crazy numbers.
I track a lot. I track my reading. I track my physical books. I track my TBR. I track my wish list. I track everything.
How many books have you read so far? You've said 91 for this year?
For this year.
I'm looking at how many books have you read since you started?
I can tell you the numbers since 2016, mid-2016 till now. It's 821.
800. Ladies and gentlemen.
Very few books.
She's only read 800 books since 2016. And you who's watching What's on Your Shelf? What's on your shelf?
Rookie numbers.
And when you hear such figures, what comes to your mind? And today it's a privilege that we are having with us for this conversation, Faith. She's on Instagram as coffe. Check her out. She's done amazing stuff. I'm having a challenge to ask most of the questions I would want to ask that I've had before on this podcast, because she's given detailed reviews of books she's read and her thoughts on certain books on her Instagram page. So I don't want to spoil it so that we have it twice. Go check out her Instagram page. Check out her blog, coffe.
Yes,
.com. And interact with those spaces and tell us what you think about. She's open. She responds to your messages. So she's also looking forward to doing that. But have you also subscribed to this channel? Leave a comment and tell us what you think about this conversation. What has struck you during this conversation? There is a book we cannot leave this place before we go. The Girl with the Louding Voice. This one
Oof, yes, let's talk about the girl with the
Yes,
louding
the
voice.
girl with the louding voice.
I want to fight anyone who didn't like this book because of the writing. Because that's, say something else, not the writing. We have a young child. It's a coming of age story. Who doesn't know English? So how she speaks is how the author has written her. And I feel like people, because me, I love this book, people judge her too harshly. They're like, why can't she speak good English? Because she's illiterate. She cannot. And I love the what is it, can we say? The choice Abidari made to purely write that book in that way. It brings out
Let me understand. The author is writing about a girl who is illiterate,
the girl is illiterate, so it's from
who
her
can't speak
perspective.
good English.
Yes.
But the author has written the English as she would be speaking.
Yes.
So the book is written in broken English,
Yes,
as we would say.
basically.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. And it gives you moments of pause to go back and realize what you're reading, what this story is about. This girl is in search of education. She wants to learn, and she will do everything she can so
Yeah.
that she can learn. And she goes through hell in that journey. Glad she has a good ending,
Yeah,
but she suffers and struggles from the first page.
yeah.
Yo. Oh.
Why was she referred to as the one with the louding voice? What was this that
The
was
girl
so
louding
loud?
voice has search for education. She wants to learn. She wants to stop being illiterate. She wants a life, a future, and she's been told when you get an education, you'll be like that big madam. You'll get the car. You get a good life. You'll stop suffering. So yeah, she's very loud about it,
Yeah.
and she gets someone who supports her in that journey,
Okay.
which is really good.
So it has a happy ending.
It has a
Happy ending.
what
The
I'd
girl with
say
the
is a
louding
happy
voice.
ending. Like I said, I don't read happy books.
Yeah.
My books are not happy. So yes.
So, the atonement.
I also want to sneak this in just by saying
Quickly
that
going through
this
them.
book, not many people are reading it.
Lessons in
They
chemistry.
should. The lady,
Yeah.
she's a chemist, but she lives in a world where women do not have a voice. The 1950s, the men steal her ideas and all that. She's fired from her job. So now she's on a cooking show, but she's not your normal chef. She cooks in chemistry. Do this, and then she has this catchphrase, kids, set the table or something. It's really good. Like, I feel it's one of my best books of this year. People should read it.
Lessons in chemistry.
In chemistry. And there's a show, which I've not watched yet, but it's really good.
On the book.
On the book. It came out in October.
So she ends up as a chef.
She's on a cooking show.
Okay.
So not a chef, she's a TV personality. But she doesn't navigate it the way the way we would want her to. She makes hound rules. And she talks in chemistry terms. Yes. And so, you see, put a clove of garlic or 2 teaspoons of whatever. She talks to you with what happens, the reactions, like the chemical aspect, the scientific aspect of food,
Yeah.
and why it's good for you, and becomes popular. It's really good. It's a good book.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get to the atonement.
This book, it's not the best book you'll ever read in life. It's not. And actually, you might read it and not like it. Majority might read and not like it. And the reason, there's a period, 2 years, I bullied people on Twitter to read this book. Because I was shocked. I got it for 400 shillings at TBC. It was on offer. And the reason I read it is because I'm doing a challenge. I love Gilmore Girls. And the character, Rory Gilmore, reads 339 books from season 1 to season 7. So there's an Australian who noted down every single book mentioned and came up with a list of 339 books. So me as Faith said, challenge accepted. So now I'm reading
Wow.
my way through that list. And it's on there. So if for not that list, I'd never read this book. I read it and I was shocked. And then the minute I tell, because my reading is very public, like, hi, this is what I'm reading. And people are saying how good of a book it is. I wanted to fight everyone because no one is talking about it. It's a book that defies language, if I can say so. You're reading a story within a story within a story. So there are about 3 stories, and at the end, you don't know which one is real. Because it takes you on a journey that will have you hate a child. Because it's because of this child, her feelings were hurt. And she made a decision that ruined this man's life. So how life unfolds for them is different. So you get all this perspective. You think you're reading one story. And then midway you're like, what has happened? And then by the time you finish, you realize you're reading 3 different stories. And so I read it again because I was shocked. I finished it and then started it again. And then watched the show. And it's just pure brilliance. Like, one of the best books I've read, but it's not the best book you'll ever read. Yeah.
Why is it so? Is it because of the language? What is
Just
it?
what I've explained.
Because I'm trying to I'm trying to dig it deeper.
There's no digging deeper here. There's no deeper
to
you will
get
go.
more finer details, because you I would say, as I'm those people who want the details,
But you will not get. Because what I've said, we go back to me saying, I
Yes.
read as a hobby.
yes,
So if whatever I've said has not interested you,
Yes.
you move to the next one, because then you will not enjoy the book, because that's the most you'll get from me.
yeah,
There's no deeper learning. It's how it's presented to you and
Yeah.
how I consumed it,
Then
and
it
now
was-
me giving it.
Faith. Personally, I would say I've had such a short time to interact with what you've done, because you've done so much. And I remember, as I was trying to look through some of the things you've done, I was most of the time split between the blogs, and I'm coming back to your Instagram, and I'm watching this video, and I'm trying to scroll to see the books. And I realized also that there are not so many, I would say, Kenyan books on your reviews. Is it deliberate?
On my blog?
Yeah.
Actually, there are more on my blog. By more, I mean about 5 or 6. My list of Kenyan books is more like 10, less than 15. And out of that 15, about 5 or 6 I talk a lot about them. I don't like having this conversation about Kenyan literature because we've had it. You leave angry and frustrated because people are like, you don't read Kenyan books, you don't read Kenyan books. But the thing is, what is being put out, either it's not something I like. It's no fault of yours as a Kenyan. It's me as a reader. I like what I like.
Yeah.
So you can't force me to read a book because it's Kenyan. That is not a criteria. I have picked up books because it's a Kenyan authored, but then you're left disappointed because why is there typos? Why do the pages feel off? Why is the cover like that? So those are my habits as a reader, my criteria.
Yeah.
It's not your fault,
Yeah.
but it contributes to how I feel about your book.
Yeah.
So I'd rather not. There are good books I've bought.
Yeah.
We have Havoc of Choice. We have Things They Lost. We have Moikali and the Forbidden Mask. We have the 2 anthologies by McKenna, Angelica, Equipoisoned, Digital Bedbugs. We have this book by Otino Pondo, Beer Pressure. So good. So it can happen. If you want to, you can do it.
Yeah.
But you can't hide behind the fact that you're self-publishing. No, we deserve quality as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I can say on
Okay.
that topic.
To Mike, who is just trying to write, is getting into that, has a desire to publish. What quick tips would you give him to, as a reader, as the person who will eventually receive this book on the other end, to look out for in your process of publishing a book?
Me as a reader,
Yes.
get a good editor and get a good cover. Those are the two things that will put me off a book. I've read a book, good cover, didn't end up enjoying it, but I appreciated how it was written, the edit. Like, my problem, Sasani, like the way I'd judge this book is how I'd judge it. Like, we are not having, our problem is not starting from scratch. Like the cover, the editing, the pages, no. So a good editor is everything.
Yeah.
A good editor. You want your story to be well told.
Yeah.
And you want people to read it. Because I can suffer through a boring plot line, terrible characters.
Yeah.
But if the grammar, it's bad, cannot.
I hear you. This conversation actually today we're having at the Kenya National Library Service, the library in Buruburu, and one of the things I noted, and is, I don't know if it's expressly or impliedly, is that 80% of the books that are in the library are, I would say, foreign. You know, and there are certain things I think that have contributed to that, because also even to the Kenyan publishers and the authors, there is, I think, a requirement that is always communicated that once you do a book, deposit like 2 copies with the Kenya National Library Service. And I feel like that could be one of the way to have a majority of our Kenyan or East African books available on the shelves. Kenya National Library Service is a public library service. So check it out, check them out, check out. They have 3 locations so far. We have this one in Buruburu. We have the one in Upper Hill, one of the best around the country. And also they have a library in Nakuru. So these are spaces that are open to help all of us get a space to read, get a community, get people who can also allow you to push the conversations further. But also, we are also privileged to have people like Faith also who, with the digital spaces, they point us to different places and different books to read. So we have no reason not to indulge, because my desire is that one day we will lift our hands to say, no, you cannot hide it in a book if you want to hide it from a black person. You know.
Yeah.
But as we conclude, I know you'd recommended the Secret Lives of Babasegi's wives. That one I will check it out. But as we conclude, what book would you specifically recommend for me?
For you?
Yes.
Because you like political books. The Dragon, the Giant, the Women by Y.A. Tumo. It's non-fiction. It's a memoir. When you hear about Liberia, what do you know about Liberia?
Liberia.
Yes.
One, Liberia had civil war for the very long time. They had the first African female president, Salif Johnson. And
it's the one thing people say.
One of my favorite footballers of all time, who just got defeated the other day, being a one-term president, George Weah. And
never heard
by
of
the
it.
way, George Weah's son was playing for the American national team.
Oh.
I won't say it.
Okay.
Yeah. But Liberia also, I think other than the civil war and
The country that was not?
The country that was not colonized.
There you go.
Liberia and Ethiopia.
So now,
Yeah.
I would also recommend the fiction part because it also explains that. But this takes you through that one of those civil wars. So Wayetumu takes you through how she immigrated from Liberia to the America. But the in between, what happened? This tells you that story. Yeah. It will tag to your political part.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think there's much I can say because it's also even difficult to review nonfiction, especially memoirs, because this is someone's life
Somebody's
story.
account, yeah.
So who are you to say
No.
it's bad or no? No.
Yeah.
But the other book I'd say, I don't want to throw you in the deep end and send you to.
But this one is interesting.
It
This
is.
one I'll look for. The Dragon, the Giant, and the Women. This one I'll check
Go
out.
to half-priced books. They have copies at discounted price. That's another thing. They sell second-hand copies, and they're affordable
Okay.
if you don't have money. I'm not saying you don't have money. I'm just telling the people who are pirating.
Yeah, with the housing levy now, we want anywhere you can save.
Yeah, you can save from there. I read more fiction than I do nonfiction because all my nonfiction is memoirs. Already we've given you the comfortable spot. Is that? What have I read recently? Have you read Stay With Me?
Stay with me. No.
It's a book I read in 4 hours, 3 and something.
4 hours?
Yes,
You had read the whole book?
I had read the whole book. It's one of the best books. Because I don't have the list
Yeah.
of all my favorite books in this lifetime, but if I did,
Yeah.
number one,
This would be number one
This would
of
be
your
number one.
best books.
ever. I don't have
Your
that list
all-time
because I
favorite.
refuse to have the
Yeah.
list, but that would be there. The gist behind it, how this lady, it handles fertility or infertility very well. Motherhood, marriage in an African setting. So this might be kidogo spoilery. We have this lady married and has kids, but the child has sickle cell anemia. But they realize something happens. Then they realize the husband is not the father of these children. But in this setting, it's not the wife that's the problem. The husband lied to the wife and had the brother give this woman kids. You get? So like they plan with the brother, like, I want you to give my wife, I want you to get my wife pregnant. And it comes out later on when you realize the only reason you have this disease is because of this other person. But how the story is told, there's a scene where this lady is convinced she's pregnant. Is it with a goat? Something like the bit. Listen, it is crazy. It is mad. It is well written. It will leave you in suspense. It will have you angry. But by the last page, you'll be like, hey, it was a journey. You will travel. This book will have you traveling and it'll take you on all the emotions you can think of. It's really good. One
Yeah.
of the best books ever, by the way.
Wow.
And I don't think there's anyone who's read this book and said they hated it. I don't think so. You have to love it.
When you look at the Western and the Western and European writers and the African writers, what are some of those things you look at and you see the difference?
I do not see the difference. And that's what I was saying. The way I'll review this author, like there's no favorites. You will all get the same treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Faith, thank you so much. And I think I would really, really love to talk about all these other books, but I
Yeah.
think those two last books are my takeouts. I
Yeah.
don't know what's your takeout. This has been Faith, sucker for coffee. She loves coffee. She takes 1 cup of coffee, 2 glasses of water. But it's been nice and interesting to sit down with you and allow us to take a journey through your shelf.
Thank you.
And we look forward to interacting with you more in the coming days. Guys, if you look at her Instagram, if you look at her blogs, this is such a tip of the whole iceberg. It's beneath there, the whole thing that can sink a Titanic. What's on your shelf? What are you reading? Thank you so much for journeying with me through this episode. What did you like? Have you liked? Have you subscribed? Leave a comment on what you think about Faith, about her perspectives, about her reviews, and let's engage. I've been your host, Mike Mulure, and until next one, bye-bye.